Thank you very much, Dr. Yin, for your nice introduction. Good morning, everyone. I'm very much honored to be the invited theme-based speaker. And this is a good chance for me to share the research findings with you. I came here to learn from you. Please give me your valuable comments. Now please take a look at this picture. What comes to your mind? It's a big assembly. In this big assembly, only 3 people use their mobile devices to take pictures. 8 years later, similar assembly took place, and we can see the majority of people using their mobile devices to take pictures and collect data, maybe. So from these 2 pictures, we know that mobile devices have been embedded to our lives. And young generation, they would like to use the mobile devices even 24 hours. And parents hate it. Teachers thought that they are disruptive technologies. However, digital kids, they have their own preferences. It is hard for us, for the parents, for the teachers, to prevent them from using the mobile technologies. So as educators, what can we do is to design good mobile and seamless learning activities to help the students learn using the mobile technology instead of preventing them from using them. And this picture, well, we all know that Pokemon Go was launched in 2016. And I would like to ask you, do you still play the game now? Yes or no? Have you ever played? Yes or no? Yeah. At the very beginning, it's very popular. And now, just within less a year, it becomes not popular. Why? We have to ask the reasons. And then this one, do you play this game? PlayerUnknown's Battleground. This one, in the year 2018, is quite popular. Why? Because it is challenging and exciting. Same as the things in education. What do school students need? See that kids are bored in school and maybe even in university. It is not because they need fun. They need challenges. Thus, we have to think of the question, the big question. How can we design exciting, challenging learning activities for the learners? So today, I would like to take this as a topic, and I would like to discuss with you about how can we design, implement, and orchestrate mobile and learning activities. So this is the overview of my presentation, and here I will give you 4 examples. I'm not sure whether time is enough, but I try my best to give you the 4 examples, and then followed by a brief introduction to teacher orchestration. This is the project I'm doing now. Talking about mobile and seamless learning, we have to think of the modes of learning, the evolvement of learning forms or learning modes. We know that learning evolves very quickly from face-to-face to e-learning to mobile learning to seamless learning. And seamless learning synergistic learning environment, a lot of new types of learning emerge these days. And today, I would like to just focus on mobile and seamless learning. what is mobile learning? I remembered that I went to the UK for my master's degree study. The topic is about using mobile technology to enhance students' vocabulary learning. At that time, I was desperate to find out the definition of mobile learning. But when I Google search, I can only find 1 or 2 pieces of information about mobile learning. And the earliest one, we can say, is by Clark Quinn from Ericsson. According to him, mobile learning is mobile wireless in your pocket learning. But at that time, actually, it is not wireless. So I did my research using SMS. Instead of internet connected, I used the SMS. I sent the SMS to the adult learners twice each day in order to reinforce, their vocabulary learning. And in 2003, mobile learning really involves wireless transmission. And here, in this diagram, and they positioned I'm learning here, and I'm online learning here, and it's under the e-learning umbrella. But what we can find is that here they do not overlap. But now, when we talk about mobile learning, we think of online learning because all our mobile devices are connected to the internet, right? So the learning, now we are in the age of wireless mobile learning age. And later, the context was included in the mobile learning definition. And in 2013, Cropton defined mobile learning as learning across multiple contexts through social and content interactions using personal electronic devices. I think here, if mobile learning as learning across multiple contexts, it's actually talking about seamless learning. And I like this definition. I think in this room, I'm not sure how many of you use seamless learning. If you use seamless learning, I think you will cite this definition by Dr. Longzhen Wang, our president of ICCE, and Professor Chikit Loy. Yeah. And seamless learning refers to the seamless integration of the learning experiences across various dimensions, and including formal and informal learning spaces, individual and social learning, and physical and cyber spaces in one-to-one setting. Now, I think we are in one-to-one setting. Even two-to-two setting is a setting, right? Two settings, because maybe each of you have 2 mobile devices. One is smartphone, another one is laptop. And this seamless learning also have different types. We have planned in-class learning and emergent in-class learning, and also out-of-class that is planned, and emergent learning that is out of class. And here, in this situation, actually, some of you maybe are doing emergent in-room learning now. It's also a kind of seamless learning. Anyway, but when talking about seamless learning, we face a lot of challenges, especially in terms of technology, pedagogy, research, and policy. And in terms of technology, we have to think of infrastructure and whether the mobile devices are safe for kids, etc. And also policy, we have to think whether the school principal, whether the education bureau those people, and also whether the community support the use of mobile devices. But today, I would like to focus on pedagogy and research instead of talking technology and policy. So pedagogy, when talking about pedagogy, we have to think of the content and the tasks that how can we design the tasks that are student-centered, and how can we bridge informal and formal learning, and how can we recognize and assess the informal learning part, especially. And we need to use the research to think of the design of mobile and seamless learning. So that comes to the topic of design and implementation of mobile and seamless learning in school education and from the pedagogical perspective. So we know that pedagogical design for mobile and seamless learning is not about how much time in class, out of class that is spent, and it is also not about how frequent the context is reconstructed. We have to think of the pedagogical design. How can the pedagogical design that can help develop students' 5C skills? I remember Professor Bolek talking about the 4 Cs. You said the 4 Cs are traditional ones because traditionally we still need the 4 Cs. Communication, collaboration, creativity, critical thinking skills. But these are in the new ways. And then the 5th C is what? Mentioned by Professor Grove. Critical thinking skills. Computational thinking skills. Sorry. Computational thinking skills. So these are the new, though the old terms, but with new connotations. These are the 5 Cs supported by new technology, by the digital technology, especially technologies. Tools, AR, VR, AI, this kind of thing. And implement the mobile seamless learning. Is it the design is a new bottle with old wine? According to Jonathan and Bradford, etc., that when we design the pedagogy, the technology should be used in a transformative ways that can really help transform learning using innovative pedagogical designs. And talking about pedagogical design, we have to think of TPAC. This is also not new, but I would like to interpret it in the mobile learning environment, mobile and seamless learning environment. Let's come to the technology part. Jonathan posits that if technologies are used to support active, constructive, intentional, and authentic learning, this kind of design is meaningful learning with technology. And in this sense, technology actually is a partner of the learner. Is a partner of the learner. And when we talk about partner, we have to think of the affordances of the technologies. So what are the technology affordances? They are the properties that the environment can enable the effectivities of the technology and the abilities of the learner to take learning actions. What does that mean? For example, in this environment, I think all of your smartphones are connected to the internet. If you want, and this environment actually allows you to, offers the properties to be connected, your mobile smartphones are connected to the internet. And you, as an academic, can use the mobile devices to communicate with your friends. But if you want to use the voice function in this environment, can you use it now? I think the answer should be no. Why? Because this environment, though, offers the properties, of internet, Wi-Fi in this environment, but you cannot use voice communication with your friends because of the restrictions of the environment, and the environment is you are attending a lecture, right, here. So you can't use the technology for voice communication in this situation. So when we talk about affordances, if it is not used, if the thing offers affordances, but if it is used, that means the affordances is not actualized. So I summarized a list of affordances of mobile technologies. They can be used for multimedia access, communication, data collection, scheduling, representation, etc. However, these uses, these functions, just now I mentioned, though we can use for these, you use the technology for these functions, but we have to think of for what. For example, communication. If the technology can be used for communication purposes, is it for pushing? Is it for posting purposes? Is it for messaging? Is it for file exchanging, classroom communication, etc.? And these days, I believe that you use the mobile technology for posting a lot. Upload your photos in various social media platforms. If we can realize these affordances, that means they are actualized. The affordances are actualized and they are effectivities. And when we talk about pedagogical knowledge, we have to think, we have to think of the how. Just now I mentioned technology is a partner and pedagogical knowledge is a how. How can we use the technology effectively to enhance teaching and learning? And certainly, while talking about the pedagogical knowledge, we have to understand the pedagogical principles premised cultural principles, social constructivist principles. For example, working on authentic learning environment, on authentic problems, encouraging diverse ideas, these things. And also we have to think of, make full use of the affordances of mobile technologies. And you can refer to the publication here. And certainly these principles are based on Scadamali and Berita's knowledge building principles. And also, when we talk about knowledge, the pedagogical knowledge, we have to understand what approaches or teaching strategies we use in the pedagogical design. If you are quite clear about these pedagogical approaches, then you can your technology-supported learning activities in a more effective ways. And the content knowledge, we have to think of the facts, concepts, theories, mental models, etc. And then the content knowledge is a what. This is TPACK, is a technology. Technology is a partner. Pedagogical knowledge is a how, and content knowledge is what. But I think it is not enough. We have to consider the context. In what context and partner together? So by putting partner in context, when we do the pedagogical design, then the student needs. Just now I said, when we do the pedagogical design of mobile and seamless learning, we have to consider how and why. Just now, I talked about TPACK, this model, in context, and still we have to consider why do we have to make this kind of design. So why? We can talk about it for another 40 minutes, but here I just use the simplest way to say why, because we want to develop students' 5C skills. And now I'd like to give you the examples of the mobile and seamless learning pedagogical design in my research studies. The first one is inquiry-based learning in science in a primary school. And this is published in Computers and Education. So this seamless learning design is based, first I have to consider not the technology first, but the pedagogical model first. I think of the using inquiry-based learning model. I decided to use the inquiry-based learning model in science learning, and these are the elements, and then upload their or the learning resources found and inquiry. Use the they do the student to the teacher or just like it can be used as notes, diaries, but we can upload different formats to Evernote. Because this inquiry-based learning took place in a primary school, the primary students are not, in a way, I have to consider the context, the learner. The primary school students, they are not good at handwriting or typing. So I use the Evernote. The students can, just make a recording about their reflections and upload it to Evernote instead of, do the typing themselves. And this is an example how this inquiry-based learning was carried out. During the first activity, the students have to engage and explore the information, engage the activity and explore the information about fish. The topic is sorry, I forgot to let you know, the topic of this inquiry-based learning is to find out the anatomy of fish. The anatomy of fish. The 鱼的构造 ，okay, 鱼的身体构造 ，right? And the students in class and at home, they search the information and upload the information to the website. And then at home, they went to the wet market and they explore a few kinds of fish, in the wet market. And they take pictures, they make recordings of the observations, and they interview the fishmongers in the market using the devices, and then upload the artifacts to Edmodo and Evernote for sharing. And then during the observe and explain stage, this stage happened in the school lab. The teacher bought fish for each group. Each student has to find out one kind of fish anatomy, the structure of the fish. And so if they don't know they have no idea about the fish, then they have to search the internet themselves and find out the information. And here we can see this student now. He took the picture of the fish he is studying. And this is the picture of this fish. And then he found out the information about this fish on the internet that the information was uploaded previously by other students. And so he can use another mobile device to as multimedia access tool here. And then label using Sketch. And these are the students, their work. After doing this, I learned more about fish. Actually, I didn't know the anatomy of fish before. 5 minutes. Oh, 7. And the student, after the learning, they said, before the experiment, I thought fish is hard if it is not cooked. But after this learning, they learned more about the fish. I have to skip, the time is limited, right? Oh, sorry. And then another one is flipped classroom learning activities designed using the 5D pedagogical framework. When we talk about flipped classroom, we only know that before the class, we need to watch the video. In the class, we are going to do the discussions. Actually, if we do not use pedagogical models to link the pre- and in-class learning activities, what's the difference between the pedagogical design between the traditional teaching and flipped classroom? What we know is that, and traditional if we do not use flipped classroom, then maybe the students' discussion period is shortened. By using the flipped classroom, the only advantage is that the student has more time, a little more time for discussion. So we have to think of how to link the pre-class learning activities using the model. And this is the model for mathematics learning. I put this stage, discover stage, before the class learning activities. And in this pre-learning class, what technology, mobile technology I should use in order to improve the students' learning. And then here, this part, the students, this model, I revised the previous model by adding this stage, diagonals, because the students need to, the teacher needs to diagnose learning activities after the quiz of pre-class learning activities. And then they plan and enact learning activities, and then I justify their findings. And another one is about the productive failure-based flipped classroom. Okay, productive failure-based classroom. Why I use this design? So flipped classroom, usually we ask the students to watch the video about the new concepts first at home. Then I would like to ask whether the student have the room to explore themselves about the new concept. You've already let them, watch the video already. They've already know the new concept. Then there is not much room for the students to explore themselves. Thus, instead of allowing them to watch the video first, we put the engage, explore, explain stages in front of the video watching stage. They engage, explore, and explain the problems first in class, and then the second stage is important, that is consolidation. And productive failure, I think you heard of this concept. It's a pedagogical design that first engages students in unguided problem solving to elicit their prior knowledge, particularly in the future, to solve the problems, followed by using this information to consolidate and aggregate new knowledge. So after the students' problem-solving stage, maybe the students' problem-solving solutions are not correct. It doesn't matter, but the teacher's consolidation is important. The teacher needs to point out the misconceptions. And then finally, after class, the teacher gave the video to the students to watch after class. So it's just flip the flipped classroom. Instead of putting the video watching activity in front of class, I put it after the class. So this is the design of traditional flipped classroom with productive failure-based flipped classroom. And time is, and this is another project. It's interesting. A project-based learning with productive failure instructional design and project-based learning, the comparison. And here, the teacher, at the very beginning, the first, the explore and understand stage, the teacher does not give guidance. And here, after the exploration, the teacher gave facilitation. And this is productive failure-based, but I have no time to explain this. And this is just normal project-based learning. The teacher gave facilitation during the process. Okay, I'm almost finished. And we can see just at the assessment, you may ask me, how can we assess the students' learning? These things just now I showed the assessment. We track the students' learning process, and finally they can work out their product. They work out a booklet and digital booklet, document their learning process. And also their learning process is documented on the learning platform. And I also used the metrics to analyze collaborative problem solving. So why just now I've already, so teacher orchestration, and this is the platform that I'm developing. Yeah, so for teacher orchestration, why? Because mobile and seamless learning, we have to support the teacher to do mobile and seamless learning. Without support, it's hard for the teacher to document or track the learning trails of the students and to know the activities, the progress of the mobile and the seamless learning activities. And this is the website. We are still on the trial stage. Thank you very much. And sorry that I ran out of time. I have to wrap up. This is the wrap up. And this is a conference. Thank you. Sorry.
I think we don't have time, but only one question is okay. So do you have okay?
Hi. So you talked a lot about seamless learning and all that, but is applications for smartphones specifically, and I know that you talked about the advantages and the strengths of mobile devices, and I'm in the same field, so I'm aware of that. But what about with the limitations? So is there any framework that you are aware of in designing pedagogically effective activities, specifically within the limitations of a smartphone, like the screen space and all that? Not tablets, but just smartphone.
Thank you very much for the good. Just talked about technology affordances. Actually, affordance comes together with our constraints. When we think of affordances, we must put constraints into consideration. So when we do the pedagogical